Good morning, folks. This is Talking One here on WSN, your content capital, broadcasting in HD. Accept no substitutes, folks. Shawn Michael, small hair flying solo once again. Hashtag re-release. Re-release, Keaton Shaw. But in the meantime, the show must go on. And a lot has happened in the world. Of course, there's a lot of ongoing stories going on, some of which you might be following keenly. Of course, conflict continues now. It's not that we have two areas in the world with conflict. It's more than that. But of course, our media cycle, I guess, for the most part, has a keen eye on what's going, or at least it did with regards to Ukraine. And now it's very much focused on Israel-Palestine. And there are fears that might widen. More importantly, the political situation in the United States seems to be getting worse and worse. It's as much as Israel and Palestine, that conflict might be an example of what could happen if you allow violence to continue to escalate and you get the vicious cycle of reprisals to the point where who even remembers what started it all? Well, it seems as though the American political system might be also escalating in a vicious cycle of political gamesmanship. And why does that matter to us? That matters to us because the American Fed, who controls their money supply, I guess you could say, or monetary policy, they're concerned about inflation. Despite growth, they might continue to try to put things in place to keep American inflation down and to drive it to a 2% minimum. Why does that matter to us? It matters to us because we import a lot of our food from the States. And as long as they are continuing to have inflation, our food inflation is going to be affected to some degree or another, and we will continue to have cost of living increases, if not inflation across the board, but as cost of living increases. And while salary increases have not necessarily come through, especially one could argue the private sector, these things could still continue to be driven up and up. It doesn't help that the American political situation seems to be in flux. I think there's another concern for a government shutdown again with regards to how it's going to be financed, and expect more things like this as we continue to see. This is all, ladies and gentlemen, the fallout from the pandemic. And we ourselves have not fully recovered from that event. This is the kind of thing that it might take a decade to really try to recover from, because you're not just recovering from the direct damage, but also the slowdown and the indirect damage to your economy and your society, because over the next 10 years, we would not be where we were going to be if this did not happen. And you could say that around the world. And the stress of that is being displayed, expressed in various ways. And at the end of the day, a small nation like us that doesn't have food security gets caught in the crossfire. But enough about that. There's some specific topics to the nation that I want to get into that speaks to our own instability, or rather one could say potentially how we express the pressures of these times, trying to get back to the beautiful land that was lost over COVID, or maybe it was lost before that. Anyway, let's start off this morning's Daily Review. And the first thing I want to speak about, stop me if you've heard this one before. A man was in police custody for a major high-profile crime, and he ended up passing away not too long after. You know, it almost reminds me of that movie we saw a couple of years ago where two men were in police custody and they fell off of a chair, and, you know, the rest, as they say, is history. Apparently, that case, those involved are still being investigated, and that case is still ongoing. It's just that now this incident where the suspect, who was charged on 2 counts of attempted murder with regards to the attempt on the deputy commissioner's life and the attack that resulted in the wounding of his driver and minor injuries to his daughter. That suspect, he has died apparently of a heart attack. 22 years old, died of a heart attack in police custody. He was also charged with possession of a firearm, possession of ammunition, possession of firearm to endanger life, and possession of ammunition to endanger life. I'm not entirely, well, I guess those are separate charges. I guess I could figure out what they are. So, also, this suspect was the informant, according to reports of police sources who in the report are anonymous. So take that as you will. He was the informant who shared the information on the hidden guns, explosives, and police paraphernalia in Santa Cruz, which were found over the course of a week in two separate events, one the day of the attack and one just about a week after. It's interesting that the senior superintendent of the Northern Division said after 2.5 months of great investigative work, we stumbled across things in the bush. Or somehow you got a suspect on this high-profile case. Again, 30% detection rate on murders. But some of the last high-profile cases, they've managed to get suspects quite fast. And they got him. He gave up information. They got caches of 2 sets of weapons. And then the 22-year-old gentleman died of a heart attack. His family wants answers. His death apparently is being investigated. Now, I understand that a young man might have underlying medical conditions that could compromise his health. And then on top of that, the stress of the situation he's under could very well lead to a heart attack. Because think about it. The police have him. They don't have him for some minor charge. They have him and they want to throw the book at him. The prosecutors do. So it's rhetorical, right? Over the attempted murder of a deputy commissioner of police. And for whatever reason, it seems as though he was persuaded to give up information, which, if he wasn't scared about being targeted by other criminals for potentially being a snitch before, he might be concerned about that now. So there's a lot of things that could cause him to have a significant amount of stress, and maybe that could lead to a heart attack. The flip side is, we haven't gotten a resolution to the 2 men fell off of a chair and ended up dead in police custody. And while the police stays true to the ever useless, well, not completely useless, sometimes it's useless, or sometimes it's actually hurtful to their own cause. That is to say, the policy of not speaking about ongoing investigations or ongoing cases. Well, that's fine. And the courts go at a snail's pace. So when will we ever have a resolution to 2 men falling off of a chair and ending up dead? I don't know. It might be 2 decades. More on that in an upcoming story. It might take as long as 2 decades. That's not going to help the now. That's not going to help the police services issues that case caused to harm their reputation and the trust and confidence in the police service and the perception of the validity of police officers in their devotion to their duty and to not be extrajudicial, out of control, unaccounted for, violent, a gang unto themselves, concerns for the citizens. So as much as I rationally will objectively see where all of this could be true, the flip side is he just gave up that same day. He just gave up a cache of guns that big. I mean, even if he didn't give it up, if the police found it the same day that he was picked up, because I assume this all happened in a day, right? according to sources. Maybe the sources are misleading us. But it makes sense because the Inspector Alexander did himself no service, and what he said kind of made no sense. So now this solves the questions of what his statements over what happened and how these guns were found. It answers those questions. It might not answer them well, it might not even answer them truthfully, but it's an answer that makes sense given the current context. So this all happened on the same day. Even if he wasn't the snitch, he would have been in fear of being suspected by his compatriots of being the snitch. And that could be dangerous for his continued breathing. So what could the police have done to convince him to snitch so fast? Because it's not as though we get a lot of information that the police were able to flip a criminal to get evidence in any capacity. We don't necessarily hear that a lot. Again, they don't want to talk about it. That's fine. So now, it's them to blame. They have themselves to blame for the fact that I can't trust this. 2 men falling off a chair and dying implies that there were some serious physical things happening in that interrogation room. And being able to get him to talk in less than 24 hours implies very much the same. It's not proof of anything. I understand that. It's just that I can't trust the situation anymore. It is not reasonable for me to give the appropriate amount of benefit of the doubt. And that is because of how the police handles their communication, as well as the fact that we wouldn't be here if they didn't do stupid stuff. Like last week. There's something else I want to say. I can't say it. Another word that begins with S. Because after that incident, where the head of sorts had to have been, removed and charged, etc., etc., one would think that the police would understand, A, we have to be 100% transparent and above board, especially if it's a high-profile case. But apparently, even sleazy spin public relations 101 is something that is beyond this group. So, the greatest damage to the reputation of the TTPS is not the public. That's not where the greatest source of reputation harm comes to the TTPS. The greatest source of its reputational damage comes from members of the TTPS. And leaves it for people like the media ambassadors to clean up because the commissioner is worthless in that regard, all things considered. How am I supposed to trust officers at the rate this is going? It's only 3 guys. There's probably more. I just can't remember all of the cases. And then when they shoot suspects, people in the streets in a gunfight, and they say, well, they shot first. Over time, my benefit of the doubt is slowly but surely reaching to negative. That is to say, suspicion over everything you say. You wear a badge, how can I believe you? The justice system is taking too long to clear you, so if you want to hide behind ongoing cases and ongoing investigations like everybody does, oh, it sounds like it's proper procedure, right? It sounds like, this is what we have to do. No, it's an excuse. At this point, it's an excuse. It's way too convenient. Because you don't know how to dig yourself out of the hole that you put yourself in. What happened over the weekend notwithstanding. So I'm heavily frustrated over this and the fact that this was allowed to happen. Because physical trauma, I do believe, could also lead to heart attack. Let's just say that. So how am I supposed to trust this situation now? How am I supposed to trust that the TTPS is going to investigate this situation and give us good answers? First of all, no, we won't get good answers. They might charge an individual, but the principal is innocent until proven guilty. That's not an answer that someone was charged. And it'll take 20 years, again, More on that in the upcoming story. 20 years might be how long it takes to get a resolution, if at all. I mean, if you can't do something as simple as keep a suspect safely in custody, if you lack that basic proficiency, it shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't be that hard, right? If you lack that basic proficiency, how am I supposed to think that you're actually going to be able to be good at the more complicated aspects of your job? This whole situation reeks. It stinks. Those on khaki uniforms the TTPS is wearing, it's vomit brown. That's what they're turning the institution into, with the bumbling, stumbling, fumbling. And it might seem like a small thing, and why am I being so hard on them? It's not fair. How many people really going to give the TTPS a benefit of the doubt in this situation after everything that happened? I'm just speaking what a good chunk of the public is saying, and it's enough. It's enough that we need to hear something substantial, not the usual song and dance of whatever excuses they want to pull out of a hat. And where's the National Security Council and all this? You know, all of the elected officials are supposed to be holding our institutions to account with whatever means is available to them. I mean, you did appoint the Police Service Commission, by the way. A couple of pro-PNM people are on that commission, that supposedly independent commission. Let's kind of move past now the idealism and get to reality. Where's all of that? I don't know. Yeah, they're going to solve the murder rate, folks. This group is going to solve the murder rate. They can't even keep suspects alive from themselves. How are you going to tell a witness, oh, we'll protect you from other criminals? Psh, I need witness protection from the TTPS. All right, before we run out of time, the second story, this is a bit more mundane. It just speaks to mismanagement, political mismanagement maybe. Over the last 4 years, the state has paid approximately $20 million in compensation for wrongful dismissal. Our courts have decided that the state got it wrong enough that $20 million had to go out the door. We're not talking about hundreds of cases. We're talking about, well, according to reports, there are something like 9 situations, some of which have multiple defendants. But we ain't talking 100 people. I don't even think we're talking dozens of people. You know, 6 here, 1 there, 1 there. I remember this doesn't include the wrongful prosecution and malicious prosecution and damages due to trauma in the prison service and those cases. No, this is just people who lost their jobs. And again, transparency. It's not that politicians are firing people that they might not have agreements with. Oh, you don't agree with my policies, I need to fire you. No, it's that the courts have decided to find that they were dismissed wrongfully. Including, you know, and we're talking about firings from the central bank. We're talking firings from the Housing Development Corporation, the Port Authority, the Strategic Intelligence Agency, the Strategic Services Agency, which I think is the successor, the Natural Lotteries Control Board. Some of this happened. This is the results of the case. Some of these instances happened during the People's Partnership Administration. Some of it happened during this administration. So this is not a ketchup and mustard issue. This is all the condiments like to do some of the same rotten things issue. And it seems as though it's coming out of practice that they think this is fine. What do you think if they're so easily willing to try to circumvent proper hiring practices and procedures, etc., or if they might say that we never intended to do that, well then you're bad at your job because you don't know how to follow the rules. You might not even know what the rules are. I mean, you're in government, you know? You're supposed to know these things. There are people to tell you what they are if you don't know them. It's similar to the police situation. Things like this, when the state basically says, no, you acted in bad faith over something this serious. Why am I going to continue giving you the benefit of the doubt? It's like people don't understand that transparency is a thing, and it's a simple thing, and it's very easy. Accountability, transparency, all of these things, you know, they say the buzzwords in speeches to make them sound oh so brilliant and magnanimous, etc., etc. But then things like this happen, and your practice, actions speak louder than words. Money speaks louder than anything else. So, trust and confidence in politicians. I know it's more complicated than that, but still. All right, let's move on to the third story before the break. Actually, no. Let's take the break, because I want to spend some time on this. Let's take the break. When we come back, there's actually the stories that I want to personally talk about are still to come, folks. Stay tuned to Talk About on WESN. We'll be right back.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Alan's Funeral Home, Tunapuna. Relax. We know the loss of a loved one can be challenging, but we've got your back for all your funeral needs, from documents to the service and or burial. Let Alan's Funeral Home take care of you and your loved ones. We are located on the Eastern Main Road in Tunapuna. Call us today at 663-1829 or visit allansfuneralhome.com. Alan's Funeral Home. Let us take care of business.
You gave us the inspiration to be first. We gave you the solutions that put you first. You walked with us side by side, and we continued to serve you with pride. First Citizens celebrates with you 30 years of achieving dreams, shaping success stories, and painting brighter futures together. And together, we'll accomplish so much more. First Citizens, together, 30 and beyond.
If these walls could talk, they'd cry, "Uncle." They didn't plan to become offices or yoga studios, but they've stood by us, even when we got a little stir-crazy. For that, they deserve some thanks. They deserve Benjamin Moore.
Let the home store turn your house into a home you love. Get everything you need to give your home that special look and feel. We offer household items, lawn and garden, paint center, hardware, plumbing, lighting and electrical, toys and storage solutions. 5 convenient locations: 6th Avenue Barataria, The Falls at Westmore, Pennywise Plaza Shoguanas, C3 Center Branch and C3 San Fernando. Check out our Facebook page for more information and come visit us today. The Home Store. Turn your house into a home you love.
From Maracas Bay to Arafita Avenue and Piaco, Richard's Bake and Shark brings the world's most popular fish sandwich closer to you. Open daily at all our locations.
Welcome back to Talk About, ladies and gentlemen, and to get straight into the next set of stories on the Daily Review. Our third story today, Nikwan's founder and chief visionary officer, Ainsley Gill. That title, chief visionary officer, boys will be boys, let's just put it that way. Apparently, his company, Nikwan, is in danger of closing down. He has written a letter to note holders 2 days ago, basically saying that the company has tried to raise new equity funding through a recent cash call to shareholders with limited success. Understandable. We are therefore compelled to give notice that absent funding of the budgeted amount, regretfully and sadly, Nikwan will within the coming week be forced to cease all operations and send home all employees. That is in one of the daily papers today. There's a lot of things that they need funding for. A lot of things. Besides salaries, there's overdue electrical charges to avoid disconnection, procurement of certain consumables to maintain catalysts. This is, I believe, to maintain the functions of the plant, even though it's not actually functioning. You want the plant to be maintained at a certain level. Payment of judgment of debts to avoid commencement of enforcement action by creditors. That's interesting. Including the continuation of a winding up petition lodged by Southern Supplies Limited, which had been stayed while certain installment payments were being made to them. That's interesting. Because Nikwan has yet to get its commercial date or commercial operability or whatever the term is. Commercial operations date. They're now in this situation where, on one hand, Nikwan is begging the bank, saying 70 workers will be out of a job. Oh no. Don't mind the fact that if I was the bank, I would say yes, and that is your responsibility. Because it's not as though you haven't been open for 2 years. You just can't operate. You've had 2 major accidents. So, why am I supposed to consider trying to figure out where to get you more capital, aka more debt, given the trajectory of your handling of things? And then there's also Nikwan is apparently looking for legal action. Failing a fair and reasonable and commercial viable compromise. What compromise? Apparently, Nikwan has not paid Trinidad upstream downstream company, the go-between between them and the NGC, for any of the gas it's received. I think it was 19 million US? I can't remember what the amount was that they owed. This is when they were operating and not just closed down because of the accidents. And conversely, upstream downstream basically says, well, look, we don't have gas because NGC ain't going to give us gas because we have to pay off that debt. The gas that Nikwan got, someone has to pay for it. And NGC is not in the business of giving more gas when there's no money coming from it, especially, again, when given the fact of how the plant has been operating and it had 2 serious accidents that shut the plant down in its first 2 years of operation. Who is going to want to continue to take that risk? So, what is a fair and reasonable commercially viable compromise? It seems as though everybody is giving you all the chances that they could give, and now they've run out. You're not an operation that has 20 years of sustained stability in operations, whether financial or in actual industrial operations. So, I don't get it. I don't get what he's trying to say. It's almost like somebody who has no defense, but yet he's trying to bluff his way out of the situation. Apparently, there are some members, some of the owners or some of the financiers, although they are the minority, Mr. Gill is the majority shareholder, or the largest shareholder. Maybe not the majority. They're trying to move Gill, it's been reported, from the helm of the project. They want to potentially try to salvage their investment. The thing is, the government is also one of the investors, and the Ministry of Energy has not given them clearance. That has apparently not changed. Despite what OSHA said, they don't have clearance from the Ministry of Energy to continue, and the NGC doesn't want to give them any gas. And this is after we believe, and I think some of the newspapers at least recently reported, and NICWA was getting part of the minister's share. At a time when other areas of our petrochemical sector had to shut down or face shortages, whether temporary or permanent. And NICWA just comes and squanders the opportunity, and what might, I think, my opinion, no evidence for, but this is what it seems like to me, preferential treatment by the government. And now it seems like the government is like, this is not working. And I do wonder, what used car salesman pitch did he give his financiers? And now, it's a house of cards that's falling down, right? It's a couple steps above potentially. This is what it looks like to me, just my opinion, no evidence on this. Don't take this to the bank. But this looks like potentially it's 2 steps above a pyramid scheme. Now I get it, a lot of deals are made that way where if they don't work out, things will come crashing down and you might be in financial ruin. I get that. So it's not like scamming like Bernie Madoff pyramid scheme. But still, this whole operation seems to have gone to mess. If your position was always so insecure, then maybe have a proper safety record. Was it just dumb luck that you had 2 accidents? Somebody died? But the flip side is, that's understandable. What's a fair compromise in this case? Why should people continue to risk the money they invested based on your imperatives and your direction? And I could see the court basically just throwing this case out, because first of all, he could sue Trinidad and Tobago upstream, downstream only ones. They might just declare bankruptcy. As far as I am aware, it was created to service the transaction of gas to NICWA, and if NICWA never paid them for the gas, they are, for all intents and purposes, could declare bankruptcy. And then what? You're going to go after the NGC? Government can make a claim, well, we have to protect the interests of the society, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. We don't have excess gas just lying around to waste on anybody. Oh yeah, the Ministry of Energy also has concerns about the accident still. A judge might consider that. So good luck with that lawsuit. Anyway, moving on. I did say 20 years ago, why did I keep saying that we might only find out things 20 years ago, a resolution to investigations and prosecutions with regards to suspects who died in police custody? Well, it's because 2 gentlemen were found guilty of narcotics trafficking, cocaine specifically, trafficked in diplomatic pouches. Just about 20 years later, the cases occurred in 2003 and 2004, so 20 years later. 20 years. The case, first of all, the case is troubling that, yes, people are going to be so low, and it's happened before. Diplomats around the world, big countries have probably done it, right? Who could prove it? Who wants to prove it? You run the risk of having an international incident if you want to take any action against a diplomat of another country. Unless you have good enough evidence. If you have enough evidence, I believe you can search a diplomatic pouch. However, these cases were formulated. My issue is 20 years. How does this even make sense? The rate our criminal justice system is going, we could potentially have a case having to be restarted after a decade or 2 decades because the judge or the magistrate that started it might end up dead from natural causes. I mean, it's not as though there's a lot of 21-year-old judges. if a judge starts off hearing this case in his 50s, we have to hope nothing goes wrong. I mean, look what happened to, it was a magistrate, so I don't know if it would work quite the same way and have the same issues. I'm speaking about the I.S. Caesar situation where she left pending matters to become a judge. So I don't know if it will work out quite the same. But still, 20 years. There's a reason why cases lose witnesses. It's not because they migrate and they can't be found. It's because they have passed away. This takes too long. One of the ways that transparency is harmed is when the processes are impractical. The processes are too difficult. It takes too long for the processes to matter. And at the end of the day, you might get the resolution in 20 years. Here's the trick. The public won't care about the case in 20 years, but the reputational damage done to whatever institution, so in this case, diplomatic pouches, I wonder which institution that is. The reputational damage done, if there is a public institution that's going to get reputational damage, will not be cleared up. That won't be forgotten. We just might forget the details. We might forget why we no longer trust X, Y, or Z. But that damage will be there. Believe that. So when the former head of SOURCE, if he gets prosecuted and if he gets convicted, and it might be anywhere from 15 to 20 years from now, that's not gonna help our perception of the TTPS, you know. We'll just be reminded of the case and say, yes, that did happen. Look at them police officers, they're all crooks. As opposed to if it was swift, fair, accurate justice in a proper, timely, reasonable, timely manner. Then that's being held accountable. Hell, for all we know, some of these police officers who are charged of anything, they might be out on bail. And then 20 years later, whatever technicality, evidence, missing witnesses, I don't know, case might have to be thrown out. Doesn't mean that they're innocent, it just means that we can't prove them guilty. Hell of a thing, huh? All right, there's one more story I want to get into. I need to get into this. Hopefully I'm not going to take too long. Forgive me if I mispronounce anything, and I'll try not to use the actual terms because I'm very bad at pronunciation. It's just one of my flaws. I'm not that great. One would think that as a communicator, I would be better at this. But there's been another desecration of a Hindu. This time it was a effigy with regards to an upcoming religious celebration within the Hindu community. And the work site was broken into and the effigy was burnt. And this is not the first time it has happened. And I just want to speak to people now. First of all, I decry, I'm not Hindu. You know, I have no ties to the Hindu community in any sort of tangible way. It's not about that. It's just about, look, be decent to each other, right? So I want to speak out against this sort of thing and encourage people, don't do this. It's not going to help anything. Now, religion and freedom of religion and allowing multiple religions to try to coexist is a complicated situation. And it's one that I have thought about personally because I'm a Catholic, whether I am devout, practicing, you know, or whatever, at the end of the day, I identify as a Catholic. And other people will identify as whatever they want to identify, and it will be varied. Atheists, other religions, what have you. Doesn't matter. Because at some point, it's not my style to try to impart my religious beliefs onto anybody else in a forceful manner. Right? Religion is very personal. I actually, a while ago, got the philosophy of, look, I do believe it is good for people to consciously believe in something, whether it's religion, even if it's atheism, to have constructive reasons for believing in it. A lot of the reasoning behind why people are atheists are very shallow and has nothing to do with the actual good or ills of a belief system itself. They just say, well, people are bad, those insert religion here are bad, so I left the religion. Meanwhile, the atheist then proceeds to commit some of the same sins that the religious folks committed with regards to their overzealousness of their position and being very forceful and stubborn in their position. A lot of the same ills, right? Just different levels. The thing is, every one of us that believes something at the end of the day, we automatically, by default, consider all other belief systems wrong. And it's a hell of a thing. Not all of us want to say it. But that's just the unspoken assumption. If I meet somebody from a different religion and we get along well, at the end of the day, whether, the other person realizes or not, that's just there, that's default. He doesn't believe what I believe, so by default he thinks I'm wrong. So I understand that it's not going to be easy. But at the end of the day, there's no evidence to say who's right and who's wrong. Our religious writings are no better evidence than their religious writings, whoever ours or their is. So to utilize this now, to vandalize someone else's means of worship and religious expression and religious freedom, I take great offense to this. Because what happens if Christians or Catholics were the victims? And if it's tolerated for any religion to be persecuted in such a manner such as this, well then at some point it could happen to all of us, whether by the same people who basically, go scot-free and go after everybody, whether by a system that in wanting to be fair decides we'll just get rid of everything. To hell with freedom of religion. No religion. Religion bad. People don't like religion, we get rid of all of them. Or retaliation. Because it might just be Christians doing this. Don't mind that there are multiple different arms of Christianity in the country. Retaliation could happen. You desecrate us, we'll desecrate a Christian thing or a Catholic thing. Then what? Then we get into a vicious cycle. Might not be violent yet. Most importantly, you're not going to convince anybody to your side, to your ideology, to your religion by desecrating or denigrating theirs. If anything, you're going to push them further away. That's how so many atheists are born out of religious families. That's what the religious families understand. You just push your child away. We want to live up to when you say we're a melting pot of people. The reason why I said that by default, my beliefs mean by default, whether I want to think this way or not. Once I choose religion, I'm choosing one above all others. And that's what makes it hard, because you still have to have basic human decency when dealing with other people and when interacting with them and when dealing with them in terms of their beliefs. That's what makes it hard. Because like I said, we don't know who's right or who's wrong. That's the whole point of belief. That's the whole point of faith. If there's evidence, if there was actual physical evidence that could be measured, then it wouldn't be faith. Then it would just be fact. But there isn't. If there was, it would be presented to us already. If there was, there would be no multiple religions. There would just be one religion. It wouldn't even be a religion as we know it. It would just be fact. So just be careful with what you do. Are you really doing it for the sake of your beliefs, or are you doing it because you yourself have certain misguided opinions that you want to express? But I don't like it. And I hope that we could put an end to it before it turns into something bigger. Let's take a break. ASP is with us. I'll put him in the hot seat, don't worry. When we come back on Talking One here on WSN, we'll be right back.
Since they were on sale, Laura bought these umbrella shoes without thinking. Literally, without thinking. Hungry for deals? You'd better come and satisfy it at KFC before doing something crazy. Wow Bucket, 7 pieces of chicken and 4 regular sides for $115. A finger-licking good deal.
If these walls could talk, they'd cry uncle. They didn't plan to become offices or yoga studios. But they've stood by us, even when we got a little stir-crazy. For that, they deserve some thanks. They deserve Benjamin Moore.
Let the home store turn your house into a home you love. Get everything you need to give your home that special look and feel. We offer household items, lawn and garden, paint center, hardware, plumbing, lighting and electrical, toys and storage solutions. 5 convenient locations: 6th Avenue Barataria, The Falls at Westmore, Pennywise Plaza Shoguanas, C3 Center Branch and C3 San Fernando. Check out our Facebook page for more information and come visit us today. The Home Store. Turn your house into a home you love.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
From Maracas Bay to Arafita Avenue and Piaco, Richard's Bake and Shag brings the world's most popular fish sandwich closer to you. Open daily at all our locations.
The newest book is here, Closer to the Church, the debut novel by author and former mayor Louis Lee Singh. Available at all the home store branches, Barataria, West Mall, Shoguanas and C3 San Fernando. Paper-based bookshop 10 Nook Avenue St. Anne's, WESN 30A Gattaca Street Woodbrook, Metropolitan Bookshop Ariapita Avenue Woodbrook and all RIK bookstores nationwide. Available online as paperback on Amazon.com and Kindle for e-readers. For more info, call 628-5835 or 389-6504. Also available from author Louis Lee Singh, I Used to Live in Heaven, Letters to My Granddaughters, and Local Government in Trinidad, Conspiracy Against the People.
You gave us the inspiration to be first. We gave you the solutions that put you first. You walked with us side by side, and we continued to serve you with pride. First Citizen celebrates with you 30 years of achieving dreams, shaping success stories, and painting brighter futures together. And together, we'll accomplish so much more. First Citizens, together, 30 and beyond.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Welcome back to Talking About, ladies and gentlemen, and the ASP, Acting ASP Ashraf Ali, TTPS Media Ambassador is here with us. And I've been told that I'm a bit too soft on the ASP and I should put him on the hot seat. So for what it's worth, I'm going to put him on the hot seat here this morning before we get into the topic, and that is basically the suspect charged in the shooting of the Deputy Commissioner of Police. He has ended up dead from a heart attack. So anything that you might want to give us, or you could tell us with regards to details of that, anything at all? I mean, I know that it's not necessarily up to you what you could say. You're not the Commissioner of Police. But to me, this is suspicious that he's within custody and he's died. 22-year-old man dying of a heart attack. What am I missing?
Very good. Good morning to the listeners of Trinidad and Tobago and WESN. Yes. And you like to put me in the hot seat. And those are very hot topics and controversial topics at the same time. However, all I can say is that an investigation will be launched to determine the circumstances in how the young man lost his life. Yes, to the general public, there are a lot of questions to be asked, a lot of speculations that will be made, a lot of things that persons would put in to how it looks, and it is understandable, right? Anyone who dies in the custody of the police, there will always be questions about what the police did and what the police didn't do that resulted in the individual succumbing, right? The investigation will take place, and they will have an investigation date, and I would leave that to we have it's a homicide, the homicide department as well as the Commissioner of Police, when the time is right to share whatever information, it will come through.
I just want to make a correction for whatever it's worth, and you could read into it as what you will. I was not too careful, so I did say police custody, and it's one of the reports that he was remanded to the Eastern Correctional Rehabilitation Center on Thursday, and then he reported feeling unwell on Friday evening. So, the chain of custody, timeline of events, there's a lot we don't know. But you can understand my concerns. My main concern is there's an investigation. I understand that. The problem is, and then somebody might be charged with something. And then we will be told, well, it's ongoing before the case, we can't speak about it. And then it might take, forever. And some witnesses might die. The suspect in custody, depending on his age, could potentially even die of old age before this matter gets resolved, before we get any answers. And the damage to the reputation of the police and the national security, the criminal justice system, even if when we get a resolution, we'll be like, yeah, you see, 20 years ago, this happened under their watch, right? And it won't really help to say we're being transparent and accountable now, so that you could have faith and confidence and trust now. Because I get that. Okay, homicide gets involved. I get all of that. That all sounds good, but we ain't going to actually hear anything that matters. And that's what bothers me. It's harder for people to say, yes, there's accountability, when we're going to be kept in the dark for could potentially a decade. I mean, it's been 2 years since the two men fell off of a chair. At this point, the rate things are going, right? Anybody that goes into a police station for police business might be liable to be able, right, to sue the police for assault with a deadly weapon once they put a sit down.
Unfortunately, I understand the passion that you have right now in terms of sorry, I wouldn't say unfortunately I understand the passion. I understand the passion in which you're bringing it across.
The irony is, part of the passion is for the death, but a significant chunk is not for the death, it's actually for the communication around issues like this.
And I agree. So I know that it is a burning issue, especially in this circumstance, and all that is happening thus far with incidents with the prisons and the police that we have been investigating, and the number of fines and everything. And there's a lot of speculation.
Yes.
You will get speculation, and everybody, the persons will, as you say, look at the different sides and start to add up and make inferences as to what they believe. All I'm saying to you all at this point in time and the public, I understand the urgency for the information, but I want you all to understand that we need to share the proper information. and the correct information. It might not be as timely as a lot of persons might want it, but I'm sure the relevant agencies within our department have been listening and understanding what is taking place, and they will share the information as is necessary in the forthcoming weeks. Right? I cannot give a proper timeline, but I know this is an active investigation, and they will share as much as they can. Right? But for today's, I would like to say that
I was going to transition.
I don't want to deal with that. We're dealing with our current topic for this week, and like I started it last week, was the issue of fraud. Right? And I want to read an article that is dated, but it was July 16, 2023.
Right.
Right? When our fraud department had a media conference, right? And some of the information that I think is relevant because it is going into what the context of fraud throughout, right? Our fraud department indicated that more than $44 million worth, and this data was as of
July, so
July,
it could be
higher, more, right? $44 million worth of money is lost in fraudulent bank schemes, right? And in the last 5 years, in 2020, leading up to 2023, in the last 5 years, we had 5,413 reports during that period. So we expect this data to increase.
And that's just on cases that were reported?
Yes, so we expect this data to increase. And the nature of fraud is such that it is not reported immediately because you will take the victim will take some time to realize that whatever transaction, whatever thing that was done, they are being defrauded, or some transaction took place with their credit card, or they have been scammed. So it takes some time for them to even realize. Like many of us, we do not monitor our finances the way that we should. So it was only when we go to the bank or go to use our card, we realize that even if your card get declined, they realize, oh wait now, or you get a receipt from the bank stating that you made multiple online transactions. Then you realize something went wrong, right? So with that as the foundation and the context of what we're coming into the Christmas period, where we expect a lot of more online shopping, and even not the Christmas period, we have the period leading up to the Christmas and into the Carnival period, where we have a lot of shopping. We have the holiday season kicking in. Right, we have Diwali right around the corner. We have Christmas, and then the Carnival. Carnival. You will have a lot of online and a lot of deals.
Especially Carnival, you could see where there'll be a lot of in advance, and you have to do it through the website. And you could have family from abroad. The diaspora will be accessing, making bookings via online. But citizens here as well, online bookings for certain events and for their costumes, etc., etc.
Yeah, so there's a lot of deals, and what we consider to be good deals. And I mentioned it on the last occasion, last week. You need to know these deals.
But also, because I think this came up with, there's Taylor Swift has a famous tour going on right now, and there are cases of people having fraudulent tickets, scalpers with fake tickets. There's also concerns that because with the fetting season, of course, there's always going to be scalpers, but will all the tickets be legitimate?
And through your credit card, these are some of the things that they realize that when you're making purchases, your credit cards are being scammed on your information. So it's something that to look at. Once you're using those cards, there is the likelihood and the possibilities of fraudulent practices and scams taking place.
All right, we have to break for news here, but we'll continue the conversation when we return and then open up the phone lines. So stay tuned, folks, on WSN News and our next, and we'll be right back after this.
Here is the WESN News on the Hour. I am Sira Ali. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Family of deceased prisoner wants answers around his death. Fatal incident at wesn job site along Ramsey Curtin Highway. 100 pieces of camouflage clothing seized in Tobago. Regionally, flash flooding advisory for St. Kitts and Nevis due to heavy rain from Hurricane Tammy's influence. Now for the details. The individual who had been apprehended and charged in connection with the recent shooting incident involving the driver of Deputy Prisons Commissioner Sherwin Bruce in Barataria has passed away in circumstances that are currently raising questions. 22-year-old Emmanuel Joseph succumbed to an abrupt cardiac arrest, leaving his family seeking answers about the mysterious circumstances of his demise. According to police reports, Joseph had been remanded to the Eastern Correctional Rehabilitation Center on Thursday. Subsequently, on Friday evening, he complained of feeling unwell at around 9 p.m. It's noteworthy that on the evening of October 11th, Joseph had been at a medical facility receiving treatment for gunshot injuries related to the incident, with police officers guarding him. Joseph had appeared in the court just a day before, and tragically on Friday night, he was declared deceased at 10:30 p.m. after an examination conducted by Dr. Boto. The cause of his untimely death was officially documented as cardiac arrest. In response to these puzzling circumstances, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service has initiated an inquiry to ascertain the precise circumstances surrounding his demise. The Water and Sewage Authority extends condolences to the family of Kern Anthony following an incident on Sunday on a job site along the Ramsey Curtin Highway, San Fernando. In a media release issued last evening, the deceased, who was an employee at wesn, was carrying out an emergency repair works on a sewer pipeline in the area where the incident occurred, trapping Anthony in the trench. He was rushed to the San Fernando General Hospital for treatment. However, he succumbed to his injuries. A full-scale investigation will be conducted by authority and the relevant agencies following the incident. With Tobago Carnival in full swing, officers of the division continue to conduct several anti-crime exercises to maintain a blanket of security. During one such joint exercise, random searches were conducted at the Scarborough port of vehicles and persons disembarking from the Bokhari vessel. Several bars and other business places were searched. A quantity of marijuana was found and seized by the K9 officers. No one was arrested. Custom and excise personnel seized 100 pieces of camouflage clothing at 2 business places on the island. Investigations are ongoing. Regionally, a flash flood advisory has been issued effective until 8 p.m. today for St. Kitts and Nevis, with a focus on potential minor flooding in low-lying and flood-prone areas. The advisory indicates that streams, creeks, and drains could experience higher water levels, possibly overflowing into streets and low-lying regions. However, any resulting property damage is expected to be minimal. While this may cause some inconveniences, the flooding is not anticipated to pose an immediate threat to life. The inclement weather is linked to rain bands associated with Hurricane Tammy in the Northeast Caribbean, impacting conditions in the Leeward Islands and leading to intermittent heavy showers. Over the past 12 hours, certain areas are already receiving up to an inch of rainfall, with projections indicating the likelihood of another inch or more over the next 12 hours. That's news to the hour on WESN. I am Sira Ali. Thanks for watching.
Since they were on sale, Laura bought these umbrella shoes without thinking. Literally, without thinking. Hungry for deals? You'd better come and satisfy it at KFC before doing something crazy. Wow Bucket, 7 pieces of chicken and 4 regular sides for $115. A finger-licking good deal.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com. Welcome back, folks, to Talking Point here. The ASP is with me. We were speaking more about fraud again, and something has come up which I think is very important, and it's going to be even more important as time goes on. And it's something that falls under what I like to say media literacy, because how do you tell what's real and not real on the internet? Now, with regards to news, this could also be on TV news, radio news, etc., etc. But with regard, there are other aspects of the internet where what's real and what's fake does matter. One of the things is fake websites or fake retailers that might seem legitimate. There might be a local fraudster that is pretending to be some foreign supplier of a part, and there's a lot of dangers of being on the internet and not being able to confirm the identity or the legitimacy of these people, and that leads to a lot of fraud cases here.
Yeah, they do in fact have some reports relating to some of those transactions. Now, like I mentioned, we have varying views from persons when it comes to their finances and reporting these type of things. Some persons feel embarrassed that they would have been caught in this scheme, and they thought everything was legitimate, and only realizing a couple of months down they were duped, they were scammed, they were defrauded, right, and they felt embarrassed. Sometimes people feel embarrassed coming to report those type of things. Then on the other side, persons would report. So there may have been a lot of incidents where persons have been defrauded and scammed, but it's not reported. The ones that we talk about is the persons who came forward and reported because of these circumstances.
Wouldn't it be useful, yes, I was scammed, but say something happens down the line, wouldn't it be useful to have like a record, I made a police report and it's official that I was scammed, as opposed to, well, I was scammed and money just went missing.
Exactly, and that is why we encourage persons. You might think it's embarrassing to you that you made this error, but the fact that you're reporting it to the police gives us an understanding of what type of fraud is taking place out there, and where we can now, through our media program and through other areas, inform the public as to what to expect, right? And advise some of these scams, because sometimes these scams come very late to us when multiple persons have already been affected with it. And one of the things that we realize that there are persons who offer internet at different locations. Persons go to the different places and they have free internet, and they make, because they have free internet, which is the open Wi-Fi, right?
Yes.
They use their credit card in these locations.
Yes.
Those are risky because it's not a secure environment.
Yes.
And there are persons who are there who are technically trained in these aspects
to
of
read,
it,
yeah.
right? That feed and offer these type of things and could pick up your information through you making transactions and capture your data without you knowing. So when we're doing these type of things, I mean, we have to be very careful.
I mean, there's already incidents or concerns where that's done to pick up people's passwords. Then they could go into your email, they could go into your social media. So there's also that risk as well. It's not just people who might be looking to steal your credit card information. And then, by the way, getting access to your email account could eventually give you access to financial things with regards to online banking, with regards to your purchasing account with various websites.
So the whole thing about it, as you mentioned earlier, is financial literacy as to not investments per se, but the use of our technology in this modern era, where we are now going to the paperless avenue.
Well, there's also that, right? You might get investment scams online. You know, invest with me and you'll get blah, 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 blah. And then, you know, the whole Nigerian print, so you get it in an email. A lot of bad things happen with unsolicited emails that people think it's official because it's on the internet.
It's so true.
And they click on the link and they say yes and they send the money, or, you know, they might even physically go to a Western Union to send the money.
Yeah.
And then they get essentially online scammed.
So it's a lot about educating yourself and getting proper information in the use of this. It's not new technology, but new medium of making payments, right? Because online payments do in fact have its risk, right? And you have to do what is necessary to protect your assets and your financial investments at the end of the day. If you lose your bank, if you lose your credit card, you lose your bank card, you don't waste time. You communicate with your bank immediately, lock off your accounts, inform all your customers, if you're a business individual, that, you know, something has happened, right? We're not doing any transaction, together with inform you know, all your colleagues, and if you know a custom paying and other institutions that you have to pay money with. You have to inform them one time because things will happen, right? But inform any bank immediately so they can cancel your account, right? It happens. You can lose it, right? Only if you realize, and as soon as you realize something is not in line with your financial transactions, right? How you use your account. If you realize something is out of the ordinary, don't waste time to do investigation. Inform the relevant authorities immediately.
This would be the fraud squad and your bank.
And the bank, one time that you have identified something suspicious and you want to close your. It is safer to lock off your credit card immediately.
Yeah, freeze
right?
it.
Freeze it one time. Go into the
tell them to freeze your account, etc. etc.
Go into the institution and treat with it.
Okay, so I just want to say, just before, yes, we're going to open the phone lines. I just want to say, first of all, I want to advise people, one, if buying things online, try to, as much as big businesses sometimes you great evil, big business generally tends to be trusted, right? Be careful though that you don't click on a fake site. But sites like Amazon and so forth, they need to keep their reputation intact. So there's less likelihood of fraud on that. And they have their own procedures in case one of their sellers commits any fraud against any of the buyers. And then also, never respond to an email giving out your password or any sort of relevant PIN number or financial information. If an organization says that they need your password for anything, or your ID number, or your PIN for your credit card or whatever, that is always fraudulent. No bank, Republic Bank, will never ask you for the PIN for any account that you have, right? If they need to deal with anything with your account security, they will ask you to come in and deal with somebody in person, and they're never supposed to know what your personal PIN is. But we have a call on the line from Diego Martin. Good morning, caller. Morning, caller.
Good morning, Mr. Sean.
Morning.
Diego Martin in the house.
Yes.
And ASP Ali.
Good morning, sir.
But before I go to ASP Ali, and I'm hoping that the police can address, I want to wish all in the Hindu community, it is coming to and they're going into the Diwali season, and to have the desecration of the things into Ruba. That is a dagger in the Hindu community. And I'm hoping that the police take the requisite action. We don't want it to take 2 years.
I would say that's a dagger into the heart of TNT's society.
Right.
If we want to be a multicultural society, that's a dagger into the heart of our society.
Right. And Sean, I want to concur with you this morning. You made a statement about the police service where you was critiquing the position of the police service commission, and you said there are a number of persons on.
You there with us, caller?
Great. Hello?
Yes, we are back.
Right. And this is a question to the ASP. Sir, I want to commend ASP Meister for taking the directives of the DPP to press charges on the PSB senior officer, Suzette Martin. And what is worrisome about that whole newspaper article is that the TTPS closed the case and the PCA opened back the case and they found certain evidence to reopen. I am hoping that the TTPS does not prosecute this case and they leave it to some external body, the DPP office, because they have compromises from my vantage based on the information I'm seeing in the newspaper. Because this particular officer, this senior superintendent, has questions to answer with respect to a Brent Thomas issue. So I'm hoping that the TTPS is honest to us as a citizen. And quickly, let me put this in the public domain. I'm expecting that the Chief Justice basically resign forthwith, handing his resignation. There's too much things basically shrouding that Myers issue. And looking at it and listening to the council, senior counsel, Mr. Maraj, he said they had to go to the Privy Council to insist that the Chief Justice give evidence, go into the box, answer question on this issue. And I wanted to know why, if we have to have a transparency in this whole issue, why was he hesitant in not giving evidence in the first instance? And the other thing is,
quick caller.
as a layman, how can David Harris get it so wrong? That is the High Court judge. And the appeal court unanimously say something is awry with the JLSC and the decision to force the lady out. I go and have a nice morning.
Thank you, caller. Ola, I'll just say this. The motivation wasn't political in the sense that it's not as though she was a political opponent to the administration. She just did something that was, I do believe everyone would say universally, was bad. And it questioned her competency or her ethical position. So that's the flip side. We do have a caller from San Fernando that's been waiting. Good morning, caller. Caller, you there?
Yeah, good morning, Sean.
Morning.
Good morning, SPLE.
Morning, sir.
Sean, I listened to your discourse this morning, and I have to tell ASPLE, you need to stand behind me this morning. I don't want you in front of me. I want you behind me. Because Sean made some statements there that how do I put it? Not factually correct.
Okay.
In some instances.
Fair enough.
And let me say this: you went after the police service with respect to the death of this suspect who in the shooting of the prisoners officer, and you went after the police service. However, this gentleman was in the custody of the prison service.
Yes, that was my mistake, which I did correct, but I didn't.
Prison service.
Yeah.
But you failed to mention that in your whole discourse. And you went after the police service.
Yeah.
And I find that was
although caller
clarified it.
I clarified it, but I did not necessarily. I understand what you said. The rhetoric happened before the clarification. That said,
let me also say this, Sean. Let me also say this. You made a comment which was very unbecoming. You said that you talk about the seniors in the police service wearing vomit brown.
Yep.
Sean, you cannot be descending into that rhetoric. While we and the public have been calling for the police service to take the gloves off and go after the criminals, right? You talked about the two gentlemen that fell off the chair and public outrage. I am trying to remember what public outrage you're talking about.
I don't think I said public outrage. I don't think I said public.
The police complaints authority had issues with that. You understand? You remember the circumstances surrounding the death of those gentlemen? Why they were held by the police service?
I understand why they were held, but at the same time.
And that is what you need to do, Sean. You need to qualify and clarify some of these things because.
But caller, the reason why they were held has nothing to do with their death.
Sean, let me. You have a good one, eh? you seem to think that crime fighting need to be done with nice kid gloves.
No, caller. No,
crime
caller.
fighting
It needs to be
so
done.
The police service to keep this island
caller,
safe.
Caller.
You listened to the Prime Minister last week?
Caller.
You listened to the Prime Minister last week
What
in Canada?
happened in that case potentially was against the law, and instead of being crime fighting, it's gang on gang violence, and it turns the police into just another gang. In that instance.
Let me finish now. You listened to the Prime Minister begging Justin Trudeau last week to get assistance. Well, we have a country with a police service, a customs service, the Coast Guard and the Army, and we had the Prime Minister begging Justin Trudeau for assistance because we can't keep our own selves safe. So sometimes there are things that play out, and I think you went after the police service in the wrong way today, and I would totally disagree with you.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Thank you, caller. Now, I'll say this. I could ask the same questions with regard to the prison service, and even though it was the next day, the circumstances still leaves questions with regards to the police service, even though it was the next day, right? Let's be real about that. And then the other thing is, it doesn't matter what the men did or didn't do or was suspected of doing. If the police service could do whatever they want to do and enforce justice however they want to enforce it, well then is that really law and order? No. That just goes back to the point that the professor makes. I don't know if he will agree with me or not, so I'm just making the assumption here, and he's on the line, but I'll just say this. That goes back to enforcing all of our laws, and that includes due process for criminals. It's not my fault the judiciary takes forever. This is not the appropriate way to deal with it. And in fact, things like this undermines confidence in the police service, undermines trust in the police service, and that's why the Prime Minister has to go to Canada to ask for help, because we can't do it properly.
And I disagree. I disagree with that, because it's a harsh statement on an indictment in the whole police service.
Well,
no, we wouldn't take, I ain't taking.
Okay, sure.
We are taking that on the hot seat.
Sure.
We have been doing a tremendous job, right? Hold on.
Wait, because I have the caller waiting, so I just want to cut to the chase quick. I just want to cut to the chase. Do you agree with what the caller said?
Let me take the caller
that the police should, it's fine that 2 men fall off of a chair in police custody and died?
Let me take the caller.
Oh, we should go? Okay.
Let me hear the caller first and we will discuss that.
It's my disagreement was about that statement. It was not necessarily in this case. We have the caller on the line from Chaguanas. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
We hear so much about flooding, especially in Port of Spain, and nobody is, at least the authorities are not addressing the problem. The problem is poor maintenance. When I was a youngster, and you clear out drains, you do that early in the morning. Before the day was done, a donkey cart would pass and they will bring the stuff. Now they leave the stuff there for the next rain to sell it back down. You have all these drains in Port of Spain with plastic bottles. You have all these cameras looking, and I have who they in a bottle. Right? This is the reason that they get the gully sucker some time ago. You're not hearing anything. Right? That's the problem there. Now we go back down to enforcement with everything. And when my phone was down, I heard the guests talking about force the law. It would bring the country to a stand. The highways and the laws on the highway. And I think the truth is because they're not enforcing the laws on the highway is why the traffic is brought to a halt. You talk about you don't have parking on. I explained to you when I was a youngster, you had parking in front of all those properties. The people go on and add on, and the same government, as the Tongue and Country Planning, do nothing about it. It is a matter of law and order. That is why the politicians don't talk about law and order, they talk about crime. Because if they talk about law and order, the biggest culprits is them. Any questions, gentlemen?
No, Professor.
I will hang up, then you say some controversy.
No. We actually have something before your call that we have to get to, but we do have another caller from Tobago. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Last caller for the morning. Morning, caller.
Yeah, am I on, Sean?
Yes, you're on.
All right, good morning to you.
Morning.
And good morning to the officer there. Sean, I understand the point that you are making. It's a very, very, very crucial point, and we have to always keep that in mind. Our police officers on the ground cannot operate as judge, jury, and executioner. They cannot. Once you have a situation where you have your police passing judgment and executing persons without those persons going through the appropriate civilian oversight judicial system, you will have the potential, all right? It's a heavy word. You have the potential of militarizing or putting a police state into effect, because within that police force, you will have officers who themselves are gangsters. We don't like to hear that, but that's the absolute truth. You have police officers who are in fact gangsters. They're out for themselves, and they use the uniform, they use the powers given to them, the powers of arrest, the powers to take out a gun and shoot somebody and say, I feared for my life, and they will use that to further their own exploits. And so the society has to be guarded against that. On the other hand now, this is the other angle where the caller that called in, this is the angle they were going in, but this has to be done very, very, very expeditiously, where you have criminal forces that are so entrenched within a society that the usual means of judge, jury, and executioner, that usual route, cannot get to them. They're so entrenched. And this is when you have to take extrajudicial methods to deal with those persons. But that has to be done very, very expeditiously, and it cannot be done by your foot soldiers, your officers on the ground. You need a special department of the police force in place who are governed, legally governed, so they're not only doing it by themselves. And this is where you have places like the United States, they commit assassinations. They don't call it murder, they call it assassinations. This person, this leader, is so entrenched that we cannot go through the usual method of getting them out of the way, because if they stay in place, they will take the whole world down with them.
I feel compelled as much.
So that may be something that has to also be done in a place where criminal forces have become so entrenched that the head has to be cut off, and the usual method of getting to the head is just practically impossible. Right. By the time you get to them, they would have really decimated your society. Thank you very much for that.
All right. I wanted to caution you, because as much as, listen, I understand the criticisms for San Fernando for some of the things I said. I understand. Yes, I misidentified who had custody, and I admitted that even before his call. With that, and I could ask a lot of the same things about the prison service. And at the end of the day, the criminal justice system is one big happy family, and it's not. So there's a lot of implications there, and it could go in a lot of ways. Now, I understand what the second part of what you said, caller, but on some level, the definition of extrajudicial, at least to me, means outside the law. So I don't know how you could be extrajudicial but still have a proper framework for it. Now, let's go back with what time we have left. I'll just say this. That last part before the calls, it was about what he said, going after criminals, and like what the caller said, what happens after that. So, and with the case of the falling out of a chair, that's just a practical case to reference.
That is what I'm saying. When I understand how the public sometimes make statements across the board, right? And blame the police service for everything under the sun. Fair enough, right? That is your view. But I am saying that we have been doing a lot. We have much more to do And when I use the word we did, I am the opinion that we have been doing a tremendous job. From inside, with all our limitations, we have been doing a lot, right? The public asks much more of us, and I agree, right? There's much more that we have to do to get back our public trust and confidence in them. There are certain incidents that transpired over the years that the police service didn't manage from an information perspective properly, that left a lot of questions to be asked after the fact, right? And I agree, from the whole context of trying to share information as timely as possible, that sometimes it's where we get a lot of our chastising from the public, because from the media perspective, the media will put out a story because that is their story. Our rhetoric after the fact, sometimes it comes a bit too late, and it doesn't clarify some of the things that is needed to be clarified.
But then, more importantly, the last rant I was basically giving, it was more about the principles of the matter, because the caller said, well, sometimes the gloves have to be off, and I'm saying there's a difference between the gloves being off and you having no gloves, or you putting metal plates in your glove, right, and breaking the rules. For a police service to I'm not saying that it was done because it hasn't been proven. So my point is, look, there's innocent until proven guilty. That's the standard. But the caller seems to not care about that. So from your perspective as a media ambassador,
and I would say that I would not support any conversation where it goes down the line that we are beyond the law or do things beyond the law.
Law unto yourselves.
Right. We have to work within the parameters of the law. Yes, and we are also accountable for whatever actions we take. However, we are held to a higher standard, and it is expected of us. It is expected that members of the law enforcement community exercise a little more reasoning and sometimes some judgment before we take certain actions, because we are trained to do certain things, and we are trained. It doesn't happen the way it's supposed to happen at all times, and because of that, we are scrutinized a bit more. There are many of the police officers that have been arrested and charged and put before the courts for acting in certain circumstances that the law states we are not supposed to do, right? And that's the law, not the police service. When they went through the procedure and they are before the courts, and like everybody else, those officers are innocent until proven guilty, just like any average citizen, because we would have been upheld in the law that we're supposed to. And this is the whole context in what we are also held at a particular standard, right? And I understand the passion with some people that they need to get information. They're asking questions that they're not getting answers. But at the same time, too much could put yourself, when you started talk too much things without facts checking and making sure that they say the correct information.
Well, case in point,
we can get ourselves in problem. But generally, I know we are close to closing, and my final comment is not about those instances, but I know that the police service has plenty more to do, and we are trying I wouldn't say we're trying our best, but we are trying. We are doing as much as we can, and we continue to do as much as we can, and we intend to, right, push and make Trinidad and Tobago a better space, and that's based on our motto and our strategic plan is to make every space in Trinidad and Tobago safe, right? Coming up to the Christmas period, we are leading into a lot of things, so don't forget, during the course of this week, we will keep on mentioning about fraud offenses and online transactions, because this is the busy period, and a lot of activity is going to take place via online platform, and the opportunities are there for criminal elements, as well as we spoke about shopping, right? I mean, the less amount of cash that you have on you, reduce the opportunities for criminal elements, right? And being a target of robberies and larcenies.
And also be careful traveling, whether it's to Tobago, whether it's to abroad this Christmas season. There's also the potential of being defrauded with various travel packages, travel plans as well. But I'll just like to say before we close, we're way over time. I will apologize for my error, my carelessness with regards to who had him in custody at the moment of his death. The basic general principles of what I said, I think, will still stand, but it was a disservice to the accuracy of my statements, as well as I will apologize for the statement about the color of the uniforms, because I think at the end of the day it was frustration, particularly with regards to the leadership and the communication and the lack of progress and the continued devolving situation that we find with our crime situation and our criminal justice situation. Both of those things, they're connected, but they have issues. One feeds into the other, I understand that. But they're both frustrating, and they're both frustrating to me. It's not all the police's fault, and I was the one that said that just last week. I think I said that at some point. But this situation there, I'll say this. As much, I apologize, Mr. San Fernando, you are right to call me out in that respect. However, the sentiments that you express concerns me. It concerns me that our crime situation has gone so far that you're willing to say that. So I don't know if this is a sign of things to come with the sentiments of the public in the country and what it might mean for the future of our law enforcement, but we're way over time and I won't be able to say anything more on that. This will probably be a topic to come up later on, but folks, in the meantime, stay safe, stay financially safe, be careful with what you do online and what emails you open and respond to. Be careful of the heat. Make today a good day, as my co-host always says, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.